coming up next Tuesday, December 10th. That will cover everything everything we're learning from chapter 6. So yesterday we talked about how to solve systems by graphing. Today we are still talking about solving systems, but instead of learning how to solve systems by graphing, we're going to learn how to solve systems by substitution. Yes?
Is next week review week?
No, the following week after that.
Question.
Yes.
When is the retake?
December 16th from 8 to 9.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, you're still back.
Okay, so let's look at the notes. It says solving systems by substitution. It says sometimes it is difficult to identify the exact solution to a system by graphing. In this case, you can use a method called substitution. So it's important for you to understand these are still the exact same types of problems. The problem will look exactly the same. What's different is the method we're going to use to solve it. In Chapter 6, we're going to learn 3 different methods of solving systems. Yesterday, we learned solving systems by graphing. Today, we're going to learn how to solve the second method, which is solving by substitution. So what we're going to do first is write down these 5 steps of solving by substitution. These may seem a little wordy or confusing as we're writing them down, but as soon as we start the examples, they'll start to make more sense. So let's start with step 1. Okay, step 1 is to solve for one variable, either x or y, in one equation.
X or Y.
Solve for one variable, x or y, in one equation.
Is it recording the system?
Mm-hmm.
Can it hear us?
Sort of.
Kind
Hello,
of.
whoever's listening to this.
How can it?
Okay, step 2. Step 2 is to substitute the resulting expression into the other equation. Substitute the resulting expression into the other equation.
Drop the base. Unnecessary. Yes, two.
Guys, we need to save this conversation for another time.
What's the last word?
Into the other equation. Step 3 is to solve that equation to get the value of the first variable. Solve that equation to get the value of the first variable.
Oh, we did this whenever we visit a person.
Peyton. Step 4 is to substitute that value into one of the original equations and solve. Last step, step 5, is to write the values from steps 3 and 4 as an ordered pair and check. So once you have those steps written down, take out your piece of notebook paper. We're going to work a couple of these examples. So we're going to look at question number 1 first. Does everybody have the steps written down? Okay.
That's just a lot of words.
Okay. So on your piece of notebook paper, we're going to show the work, and then we'll put the answers back on the note. So number 1 says y equals x minus 2 and y equals 4x plus 1. So for this first step, we're going to go through first question, we're going to go through each one of the steps. Step 1 says to solve for one variable in one equation. So what does it mean when it says solve for one variable?
X or Y.
Right, but what does it mean when it says solve for x or y? Isolate it. That's exactly right. So this is one of those steps that sometimes is already done for you. Sometimes you don't actually have to do anything because one of the variables is already isolated. Like in this example, y is already by itself. So I don't actually have to do anything because in the equation y equals x minus 2, the y is already by itself. So I'm going to move on to step 2. Step 2 says to substitute the resulting expression into the other equation. So here's what that means. We know that y is equal to x minus 2. So if y is equal to the expression x minus 2, then in this equation we can replace y with the expression x minus 2. So we're going to plug in x minus 2 for y in the second equation. And that's how I get x minus 2 equals 4x plus 1. All I did was replace y with x minus 2. Is anyone confused on how I got this equation? Okay, step 3 says solve that equation to get the value of the first variable. So now that I have an equation with only x values, I can easily solve for the value of x. What would I do first in this equation to solve for the value of x? Go ahead.
Hey, we could do minus x from the left to the right.
Good.
So then we got 3x, and then we'll do minus 1. So it'll be.
Hold on. So I get negative 2 equals 3x plus 1. Then I would subtract 1. Okay.
And then you got negative 3 equals 3x.
And then what do I do last?
And then you divide 3, and you get x equals negative 3.
Okay. You guys should all be writing this example down. Everything that's on my paper should be on your paper.
Is it okay
Okay, step 4 says substitute that value into one of the original equations and solve. So now that I know x is equal to 1, I can go back to my original equation. Yes, negative 1. I can go back to my original equation of y equals x minus 2. But now I know that x is negative 1. So y equals negative 1 minus 2, which is?
Is negative 3. Y equals negative 3, check 5.
Okay, the last step is the most important. First of all, you always need to write your final answer as an ordered pair. So this one would be negative 1, negative 3. And lastly, you need to make sure and check it. So you're going to take your original equations, y equals x minus 2, and y equals 4x plus 1. You're going to plug in -1 and 3 and make sure that it works. So this says that -3 should be equal to -1 minus 2. Is that true? Yes. This one says that -3 should equal 4 times -1 plus 1. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know for sure that this is my final answer.
That's Sharpie.
Yes.
Cool.
Why would you mess up?
Okay. So I want you to go back to your notes and let's write that answer. For number 1, we got that the correct answer is -1, -3.
Can we do the next one all by ourselves?
We're going to do one more together and then you can do one on your own. So let's try number 4 now. We're going to skip down to number 4. So number 4 says 2x minus y equals 6 and x plus y equals -3.
So, Miss Heston, can I guide you through this one?
Just one second. Now, in this example, I do need to isolate one of the variables. Notice the step says to isolate one variable. Okay, that doesn't mean one variable in each equation. It just means one variable in the entire system. So choose a variable that's going to be easy to isolate.
Hey, we got,
What do you think?
we'll do minus y and x will be all that stuff. Or we could do minus x.
Yeah, you could do either one of those and it would be fine. It doesn't really matter which one. Let's stick with what you said first and do minus y. So x is what?
X minus y, or negative y. X equals negative y minus 3.
Good.
You're welcome.
X equals -y minus 3 or -3 minus y. It's the same thing. So all I did was subtract y from both sides to get the x by itself. Why? Because that's the first thing I have to do so that I now know what the value of x is. So now that I know that x is equal to -y minus 3, I'm going to substitute that expression for x in the first equation. Excuse me. So that would be 2 times -y minus 3 minus y equals 6. So all I did was replace x with -y minus 3. The rest of the equation stayed exactly the same.
I see what you did there. That's cool.
Okay, so now I'm going to distribute the 2. So that would be -2y minus 6 minus y equals 6. What can I do next?
Simplify to -3y.
Right, combine like terms. That's exactly right. -2y minus y is -3y. Add 6 to both sides. And divide by -3. So y is equal to what? -4. Now that I know y is equal to -4, what do I do next? Not yet. Right. Now I need to plug it in. So I can really plug it in anywhere. But I need to plug in -4 for y to solve for x. So we'll plug it in here. If x equals -y minus 3, then that means x equals -4 minus 3. So what's -1 times -4?
Wait. Why would you do that?
Because it says -y minus 3. So that's -1 times y minus 3.
Okay.
-1 times -4 is +4. minus 3 is
1.
1.
How did you get the equation?
It was right here.
It's confusing if you don't know how to do it, but if you know how to do
Thanks
it.
for the information.
So what's the ordered pair then, guys?
1 negative 4.
1, negative 4. What's the last step?
Check.
Check it.
Don't go over the stuff you Latin yesterday. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Can't do this.
Okay, so when I check it, I'm kind of out of room, so I'm going to do it up here. I should get that 2 times 1 minus negative 4 is equal to 6. 2 times 1 is 2, minus negative 4 is plus 4. So is 2 plus 4 6? Yes. Then I should get that x, which is 1, plus y, which is negative 4, equals negative 3. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely.
So I know that 1, negative 4 is the correct answer.
You betcha.
So let's go back to your notes, fill in the correct answer for number 4, which is 1, negative 4.
Can we do number 2?
Are you guys ready to try one on your own, or do you want to do one more as a
Number
group?
2, number 2. No, let's do number 2 on myself.
Okay, I want you to try number 2.
All by yourself. Yes.
Let's do number 2 and number 5.
Oh.
Oh,
Number 2 and number 5.
I feel so
Try number 2 and number 5 on your own.
yeah.
I want to do something too. There you go.
Them necessity.
Did you check them?
Yes. Well, no, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you.
2 and what?
5. Raise your hand if you're still working on either one of those. Okay.
What kids have math time anymore?
I wish we still did. I didn't have to make us
Oh yeah, you
I missed 10.
Okay, are we ready? Raise your hand if you're still working on 2 or 5.
You can. Are we gonna do those like worksheet things we did at the beginning of the year for warm-ups ever again?
Mm-hmm.
Only like 60.
You finished? You have a question? Okay, what's up?
I do not know why I got 38 and then 22, but I have X. I'm assuming that X is right.
Okay, so here's, you don't have to isolate X in both